Shut Up and Sit Down have been trying to produce the most quality content that quarantine can provide. Quinns has been reviewing games that are bigger than his table and sticking bits of paper together, and Matt's been...
Big box, big box, big box. Big box, big box, big box, big box. Big box, big box, big box, big box.
Doing that. Well, today we're going to take a little detour, a sophisticated literary excursion into the world of solo RPGs. Get yourself ready, because here comes the title slide. A few weeks into quarantine, I got sent this weird little book. I didn't know I was getting it, I didn't know who it was from, I was just suddenly the guardian of this strange little relic with some stickers and this man's face. Opening it up, I was bewitched by every aspect. Its esoteric illustrations and photographs, its patchwork design of scraps of articles and newspaper clippings with enough fonts to baptize 100 babies. A litany of appendices, stray fabric bookmarks, and this gorgeous gold foil cover. I'm not saying that you need a physical copy of 1000-Year-Old Vampire to enjoy it, but it was certainly the fastest route for this game to get into my imagination. What's inside is a solo RPG that has solidified an interest in a whole genre of games. Like Quinns with his newfound love of solo print and plays, I feel like quarantine has pushed me into trying something a little new, when endless playthroughs of Hollow Knight and getting continually steamrolled by Matt in Terra Mystica just won't do it. So with all that aside, what do you actually do in 1000-Year Vampire? Well, the game is a solo journaling RPG where you will be playing as a 1000-year-old vampire, and that will start by you creating a character. Here you'll set your vampire's initial arsenal of traits and resources before they became immortal. They could be an aristocratic fencer with a regal estate and a personal chef, or a master burglar with a collection of antique daggers and a deeply seductive moustache. Once you've sketched out your basic run-of-the-mill character, you will give them a mark. A certain thing that sets them apart from the mortals around them and the immortal that gave it to them, highlighting their transition into vampirism. And then once you've done all of that, the game begins proper, with you rolling a d6 and a d12, subtracting one from the other, and advancing through the book by that many prompts. Resolving prompts is the entirety of 1000-Year-Old Vampire, and each is as evocative as the last. How do you find solace for the raging hunger within you? The deceptions you practice fool even yourself. Fabricate an experience you believe to be true. Every single one of these prompts is going to change something about your vampire, be it the resources they have available, the companions they have around them, or the traits that they possess. But more importantly than that, every single one is going to ask you to add an experience to your character sheet. Now, this is a good time to mention that these can be as long or as short as you want them. So if you're playing on pen and paper, a scribbled sentence will do, but I'm using a laptop, so my entries will sprawl to their heart's content. And another thing that's important to mention is that when you have multiple memories that can span for as long or as short a period of time as you want and be as specific or vague as you want, you can link them together to form memories, sets of linked experiences that your vampire treasures in their brain space. And if you extra treasure those memories, you can write them down in a diary, something that your vampire keeps about them to record those extra juicy bits of information.
Dear diary, today I killed a man with a big gun.
And that last part, the fact that storing your memories in a diary is the only way of truly making sure they're not forgotten, I think that's absolutely crucial here. You see, in 1000-Year-Old Vampire, your vampire only has capacity for 5 memories with 3 experiences in them each, which means that, I mean, some people might think that's kind of restrictive for a game like this. They might go, this is a creative writing game, I want to be as creative as I want and have my experiences roll off the page. But I think it's what makes 1000-Year Vampire truly, absolutely sing. It's the fact that every single one of your horrible, horrible deeds is doomed to be forgotten. Your memory eroding over thousands of years, the scintillating becoming trivial under the endless crush of time. People around your vampire go from being real impacts on their life into blips of nothingness, far in the distance of their memory in what feels like an instant. And as well as that, because time can so rapidly accelerate and decelerate, and plot lines come and go so quickly, you, the player, can often find yourself forgetting things as well. In my video on The Quiet Year, I talked a little about how plot lines can tail off sometimes in these more creative, open RPGs. But in 1000-Year-Old Vampire, it's part of the design. Bleak, nihilistic forgetting is the intent here, as well as a byproduct of the prompt-based narrative. This is all getting a bit deep, a bit bleak, and a bit analytical, so let me tempt you gently into 1000-Year-Old Vampire by telling you the tale of my very first vampire, Kenneth.
Kenneth was a vampire who used his position as an educator to eat children. No one in the village suspected Kenneth was the person behind it all. He told them it was a monster that lived out in the woods called the Butcher. Kenneth led the charge against the Butcher and was instrumental in making sure the lost children were remembered. Candlelight vigils were the order of the day, with Kenneth providing the candles. How sweet! The parents didn't need to know that the candle wax was made from the bodies of their own children. Then, one night, Kenneth's bitter rival vampire, Sargon, turns up, furious that Kenneth had made everyone think he was the Butcher. Lo and behold, a bitter vampire rivalry plays out with a duel to cap it all off, where Kenneth was the victor, crushing Sargon for good, a fact he remains proud of to this day. Or at least he thinks he's proud of it. He doesn't quite know. All of this was recorded in a diary that Kenneth has clutched close to his side for hundreds of years as he travelled across the world to escape from the village, I think? Look, all that matters is that right now he's trying to finish a collection of shrunken heads that he lost while on a short holiday to Bruges, and he's also on the hunt for a new familiar after the last one died in a big metal machine with wheels. They should have known better than to use their communication thingy while riding it. Oh, these modern gubbins. What year is it again?
So while you do expect a fair deal of schlock and gore and gruesomeness from 1000-Year-Old Vampire, which it absolutely delivers, it eventually does also pull back the curtain to reveal quite a profound, kind of resonant experience about the process of forgetting, and a side narrative that dovetails into that of a true and indifferent detachment from humanity. In the tale of Kenneth, things went south very quickly, but that's because I kind of pushed them to, and I wanted to be a bit goofy and a bit dark and a bit awful. And I think that stories like that are what hooks you into 1000-Year-Old Vampire initially, these terrifying creatures that come out of the dark and shock and make you laugh with their horrible deeds. But I think it's stories that I've developed later, like the story of the Great Miasmo, a magician turned vampire who forgets the concept of language and outlives his 10 siblings. Those are the stories that pull you down to its inky depths. Part of this, I think, is to do with the wonderful prompts that are baked into every single page. There are so many evocative, interpretable situations in here that slot neatly into whatever character you create, and it feels so natural. But they'll often push against you in ways that force your vampire to move around a little. The narrative becomes elaborate frighteningly quickly, with tendrils of narrative and plot that latch onto your brain, and happenings that can push you into absurdist territory in a moment's notice if you're so inclined. But something that's also important to know structurally is that sometimes rolling these two dice will land you in exactly the same place you started. And if this happens, you'll do the next prompt on the same page, creating miniature narratives that dovetail off the main story in a way that feels natural and intended. But if you'd forgotten the original thing that kickstarted that narrative, you've still got to work it in somehow and come up with a reason for this new happening to happen that can often be positively baffling, but also hugely, hugely engaging. Of course, at this point, it might be important to talk about player safety in this experience. There is a little foreword and an appendix with potential warnings about the content contained inside this book, and of course your imagination can go down some dark and twisted paths. Not only that, but the game is also built around the concept and process of forgetting, and if that's dangerous territory for you for whatever reason, then that's definitely something worth noting before you buy, and I'm glad it's been noted from the outset. However, if you're not in that camp, then I think that Thousand Year Vampire is absolutely worth a try. It is a fantastic game. It's great fun to sit back on an evening, get into bed with a little laptop or notebook, a tray of dice and a cool beverage for a hot summer night. You'll get yourself comfy and reclined and begin to write, and on the way you'll have fun detailing the laughably strange adventures of your darkly comedic vampire, before realising that it's really a game about the gnawing ache of time, the void, the void, the void, the unspooling history of the world and the meaningless speck you are in it. A tome about the speed at which the meaningful becomes meaningless, the palpably felt becoming trivialised, the bleak, the dark, the depraved. A cursed volume that tugs at your heart and your mind in equal measure. All in all, I give Thousand Year Old Vampire 10 vampires out of 10. Wow, what a cool and cohesive end to another Shut Up and Sit Down video. Apologies for all the blank space on my walls so that this shot is about as visually appealing as Magnolia paint, but I was in the process of moving out during this video and so all my stuff is gone. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, there are other videos you can watch here. I did a video on Watergate and on The Quiet Year. They're both alright. You can check them out. They're kind of cool. And Quinn's did a review of Wingspan recently. That was excellent. And also, we've been streaming on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday, 3 PM BST. They have been so much fun. I will put a clip here to show how fun and cool they've been. That is the end of this video. Have a lovely week. Bye!